This is the Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Bruschi and continuing coverage of the case against Bryan Kohberger.
So here's the situation. A woman claims she was the DoorDash driver who saw Bryan Kohberger at the Idaho murder scene. And she decided to share this information while getting arrested for a DUI in 2024, 2 years after the murders. Here's the thing. We don't even know if she actually was the DoorDash driver. I know, it sounds exciting. It sounds like, oh my gosh, someone saw him at the scene. Wow. We got to take a step back, though, and go, how credible is this witness? Because there's a lot of real credible, solid evidence here. I don't know about this one, guys. The prosecution hasn't confirmed her identity, and she's not on any witness list. And the actual DoorDash driver was interviewed right after the murders with no mention of seeing anyone. So, might we be dealing with someone who claims to be a key witness, but might not even be who she says she is? Let me set the scene properly. November 13th, 2022, around 4 a.m. in Moscow, Idaho. 4 University of Idaho students, Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, murdered in their off-campus house. The crime scene, absolutely horrific. We're talking about a knife attack that left investigators deeply shaken. These were the kids just living their college lives, and what happened to them was beyond brutal. Now, Xana Kernodle had ordered Jack in the Box through DoorDash that night. The delivery arrived around 4 a.m., right when prosecutors believe the murders were about to be taking place. Digital forensics shows she was scrolling TikTok at 4:12 a.m., which confirms she was awake and received the food. The delivery has always been a crucial timestamp in the prosecution's timeline. It helps establish the window when these students were still alive. Now, fast forward to February, or just fast forward to 2024, body camera footage surfaces from a DUI arrest where the woman being arrested tells officers in the police station that she needs to testify in the murder case of those college girls in Moscow. She claims she was the DoorDash driver that night, and she parked side by side with Bryan Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra. She says she saw him there at the scene. Now, if she is a real DoorDash driver, okay, that's got to add a little trauma to your life, realizing that you were there. But are you the DoorDash driver, I guess, is the big question. Just because you say you are the DoorDash driver, in that case, involving the murder case of those college girls in Moscow, I don't know, kind of a generic way of describing it when, it's kind of a big deal. Maybe you know the name of it more than just those college girls in Moscow. I don't know. It just seems a little off. That's my conjecture. Again, I don't know if she is or not. At this point, no one does. We're taking her word for it. DoorDash is not revealing her name. We're not releasing her name here either. So we just don't know. We don't know if she is a DoorDash driver. But she's claiming she is, and she's claiming she saw Kohberger. But why would you not say that when you were interviewed all that time ago, if you are the DoorDash driver? And furthermore, if Bryan Kohberger is pulling up next to somebody and sees somebody leaving the house and sees that somebody saw him there before he went into the house, that also seems a little bit off. It might be cancel the plans for the night, Bryan. It's time to go home. Let's pick another night. Judging by how much he tried to plan this thing out and not get caught, someone seeing you in the parking lot of the home might be a cancel the excursion type thing. From a prosecution standpoint, assuming Kohberger is guilty, this could either be a gift or a disaster, if she's even the real driver. They built a strong circumstantial case. They have Kohberger's DNA on a knife sheath found near Madison Mogan's body. They have cell phone data showing his phone near the house at least 12 times before the murders. They have surveillance footage of this car in the area. What they don't have is a direct eyewitness placing him at the scene. In theory, if this woman really was the DoorDash driver and really did see him, it could fill that gap. And need I say again, could fill that gap. Here's the problem. Even if we assume she's telling the truth about being the driver, which is a big if, the circumstances of her disclosure create massive credibility issues. Any competent defense attorney is going to focus on the fact that she made these claims while being arrested for drunk driving. They'll ask why she waited 2 years to come out and say this. They'll question whether someone intoxicated enough to be arrested can accurately recall events from 2 years prior. And most importantly, they'll ask why the real DoorDash driver interviewed in 2022 apparently didn't mention any of this. It's kind of a big piece in the puzzle. The timing is particularly problematic. Law enforcement interviewed the actual DoorDash driver shortly after the murders and cleared them as a suspect. According to the arrest affidavit, authorities noted they had spoken with the delivery driver, but there was zero mention of that driver seeing anyone at the scene. Not a whisper about parking next to a white Elantra or seeing a bushy, eyebrowed graduate student. So either this woman is completely a different person who's confused or lying. The original investigation somehow missed this crucial detail, or we're dealing with some serious miscommunication about who saw what and when, or it's somebody just making up a tale. Making matters more complicated when a report claims this woman previously witnessed her husband's murder in the same town. Yes, unconfirmed, but a weird one that is floating around out there. I have no idea the legitimacy to it, considering there's not a lot of murders in this town. Now, this detail hasn't been verified by other sources. If true, trauma victims can certainly be reliable witnesses. The defense would likely use this to suggest potential confusion or unreliability. Either way, it's another potential avenue to attack her credibility. Looking at the existing evidence against Kohberger, the prosecution already has compelling material to work with. Again, the DNA on the knife sheath is particularly significant. It's direct physical evidence placing him at the scene. The digital trail showing his phone repeatedly near the victim's house at least 12 times before the murders suggests stalking behavior. The surveillance footage tracking his vehicle provides a visual timeline. Reports indicate he was seen cleaning his car after returning to his parents' house in Pennsylvania, which could suggest consciousness of guilt. So the question becomes, does adding this witness strengthen or weaken the case? If her testimony holds up under scrutiny, she could provide the human element that makes technical evidence more real for jurors. Hearing someone say, "I saw him there," carries emotional weight that DNA swabs and tower cell pings don't always convey. It could be the piece that turns a strong circumstantial case into a slam dunk. But if her credibility crumbles under cross-examination, again, these are all big ifs. If she even is someone that's going to be testifying, if this is even the right person, she could undermine the entire prosecution. Jurors might start questioning other evidence if they feel the state tried to slip in a questionable witness. In death penalty cases where the burden of proof is already extraordinarily high, one bad witness can create reasonable doubt where none existed before. The defense team, led by Ann Taylor, has already shown they'll aggressively challenge witness testimony. They successfully got portions of surviving roommate Dylan Mortenson's account excluded as unreliable. Mortenson saw a masked figure in the house, but didn't call 911 until 8 hours later, a delay the defense exploited. And that was a sober witness who was actually inside the house during the murders. Consider how this plays out in court. The prosecution puts this witness on the stand. The woman who claims that she was the DoorDash driver. And let's say she is. Okay? You got to confirm that she's the right person first. She testifies she saw Kohberger at 4 a.m. when she delivered the DoorDash order. On cross-examination, the defense brings up the DUI arrest. They ask her about her alcohol consumption habits. They question why she never mentioned this to police in 2022. They bring up her husband's alleged murder and suggest trauma might affect her memory. They ask if she's sure it was Kohberger and not someone who looked similar. And by the time they're finished, her testimony might do more harm than good. And again, let me note that murder thing, that is a complete rumor that is floating around. I cannot verify any of that. All of this is conjecture and just what if. Can prosecutors confirm she actually was the DoorDash driver? Well, yes, they'll be able to do that with the help of the arrest affidavit. The original arrest affidavit mentions that law enforcement spoke with the DoorDash driver. It doesn't provide identifying details, at least not publicly. Does her story align with GPS data from the delivery? Are there any digital records that support her presence at the scene? Without corroboration, her claims remain just that, claims made during a drunk driving arrest. From a strategic standpoint, prosecutors have to weigh what is going on here, risk versus reward. They're seeking the death penalty, which means they need an airtight case. They can't afford testimony that might blow up on them. The existing evidence already tells the compelling story. DNA at the scene, cell phone data showing repeated visits to the area, vehicle caught on camera, and suspicious behavior afterwards. Do they really need to gamble on a witness with significant credibility issues? Judge has already dealt with numerous complications in the case. He's implemented gag orders, sealed witness identities due to harassment, and moved the trial from Moscow to Boise because of publicity concerns. Adding a controversial witness could create another headache in an already complex proceeding. Trial strategy often comes down to knowing when you have enough. The prosecution's current evidence paints a picture of a criminology PhD student who thought he could commit the perfect crime, but made crucial mistakes. The DNA on the knife sheath alone is powerful evidence. The digital footprint showing obsessive behavior strengthens the stalking narrative. The vehicle identification process provides a physical presence near the actual scene of the crime. If prosecutors are confident in their existing case, introducing this witness might be an unnecessary risk, if they're even considering it. They may be looking at her right now from the behind the scenes going, that's not the delivery driver, but there's a gag order, so they can't say anything. Yes, eyewitness testimony can be compelling for juries, but it can also backfire spectacularly when the witness has credibility problems. In a death penalty case, you don't take chances unless the potential benefit clearly outweighs the risks. The real tragedy here is that the situation might complicate justice for 4 young people who had their lives brutally cut short. Let's say she actually is the witness. Their families have endured unimaginable pain and deserves a clean prosecution that focuses on solid evidence. They don't need the additional stress of wondering whether a questionable witness might derail the case. Looking at similar high-profile cases, prosecutors often face these dilemmas. Do you use every piece of evidence available, or do you present your strongest case, even if it means holding something off that may be very strong or may be very detrimental? You just don't know how it's going to land. The answer usually depends on what you've already have. When the existing evidence is strong, adding questionable elements often does more harm than good. Looking at this purely from a strategic legal perspective, this witness probably hurts more than helps, at least right now. The prosecution has built a methodical case based on physical evidence, digital forensics, and behavioral patterns. Adding a witness who emerged during a DUI arrest 2 years after the fact introduces that element of chaos into what really needs to be a straightforward presentation of facts. If Kohberger is guilty, as the evidence suggests, the prosecution's best path is to stick with what they can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. DNA doesn't lie. Cell phone data doesn't have credibility issues. Surveillance footage doesn't get arrested for drunk driving. These forms of evidence might be less dramatic than eyewitness testimony, but they're also harder to discredit. The defense will have their work cut out for them. Explaining away the DNA evidence and the digital trail, why give them an easy target in the form of a questionable witness? Sometimes the smartest move is recognizing when you already have enough to win and not overplaying your hand. Ultimately, this case will ultimately be decided by the physical and digital evidence, not a last-minute witness with credibility concerns. The prosecution spent years building their case. They've weathered delays, venue changes, and intense public scrutiny. Adding the unreliable element at this stage would be like a chef deciding to experiment with a new ingredient right before serving the crucial meal. The stakes are high, 4 lives lost and another potentially facing execution. You stick with what you know works. The victims deserve justice based on solid evidence and careful prosecution. Their families deserve a trial that focuses on facts, not sideshows. And if the evidence shows Kohberger is guilty, that evidence should be strong enough to stand on its own without questionable last-minute additions. Because in the end, it isn't about winning at any cost. It's about presenting the truth in the most credible way possible. What do you think about this witness that has popped up? Is she legit? I don't know the answer to that. There's really no way of confirming unless we have a record from DoorDash or the police give some sort of information that, yes, this is in fact the person that we questioned. Or is this, as we see in many cases, somebody looking to get out of that DUI, looking for some sort of sympathy when she's really in a bind? I'm the driver from DoorDash. Please be easy on me. I don't know. Anything is possible here. I'll tell you what, watching her in the video, on that body cam video in the police station, not the most convincing of a human being. Really not convincing, honestly, at all. In fact, hurts credibility, what she talks about, what she's been dealing with, what she's been on. It's a tough one. And in many ways, it's not. I view this as being more troublesome if she actually is the driver. Because you're going to have her credibility questioned then. If she's not the driver, then she's just a person out there making things up. Which happens a lot. But if she is, do you take her? Do you put her on the stand and say that she saw him? Because that's a pretty big key detail that if you were there that night and you were being questioned, you would tell the police. There is zero reason that you would miss that. That's not like did you see the street lights down the way? Did you notice that they were blinking yellow? I didn't see any street lights. There's no street lights there. Well, there actually is, but you could miss that. That could be a reasonable thing to go, okay. It's not reasonable to think that this person did see Kohberger in the driveway as she's portraying her, like looking out your window, there he is parked next to you. And not report that? Really? That's the part you would not report? The seeing the suspect? Seeing someone in the driveway waiting? I would think that would be there. There's really no reason why it wouldn't be. Tell me in the comments what your thoughts are on YouTube or on X. And be sure to press subscribe wherever you're downloading podcasts, whether it is on any platform. Hit subscribe there, but also please do check out our YouTube channel. Just search Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi so you can join in those conversations. And you can see us doing the show every day. We put a lot of other content out there that's video exclusive as well on our YouTube channel. So please do check that out. All right. Until next time, I am Tony Bruschi. Thank you guys for listening. We'll talk again real soon.
Craving non-stop true crime updates? Press subscribe now and get the latest cases, analysis, and expert commentary delivered straight to your feed. Only from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.